Hey there, hallo, willkommen from Germany. Um, this is my second video that I want to do about Scientology. The first one I did, you might want to check this out. I went to the Scientology Central in Berlin and had a look at them, even though the sound quality is kind of bad. I hope the quality of this video will be better. So my apologies for that one. So this video is basically to give you an overview about how Scientology got to Germany, what they do here, and what Tom Cruise has to do with it, and a little bit about their legal status here. Firstly, I want to say it's kind of difficult to actually get info about this, um, because there's not really data available about this matter, since Scientology, as you might well know, is not really famous for their transparency. So most of the info that I want to present to you in my small presentation here is from this book that you can see there. I bought this as well. It's called Scientology, wie der Sektenkonzern die Welt erobern will, which basically means how the conglomerate, the sect conglomerate or the sect organization wants to conquer the world. It's written by Frank Nordhausen and Liane von Billerbeck. And I did read some other books on this matter as well, and I have some other sources as well, but I will be going through these as we get to the information. So yeah, most of the info will be from that book. Now let me just draw up my notes here real quick and we'll get into it. So I structured my speech in three basic points that I want to go through with you. First will be Scientology's churches in Germany. Second will be Tom Cruise and the movie Valkyrie, because that played basically a big role in their whole transition to Germany, or however you want to call that. And then the third point will be about the German resistance against Scientology and their cult's legal status. The cult's legal status. I also want to apologize for my English. Since I'm a German, my English is not perfect, So yeah, you will have to put up with that. I'm sorry. So let's get into it. Firstly, I pulled up, just typed in Scientology into Google Maps and pulled up the Europe region, and you can see that there's a bunch of churches right here. We've got basically big missions or churches or orgs. I don't really know like 100% what the difference is yet in every major city in Germany, especially in West Germany, because of the history, but we'll get into that a little later. Also, there's Scientology in Switzerland, in Denmark, in Austria, and Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. I think it's pretty big in Hungary, actually. And the German church also has connections to these. They also have connections to England, Spain, other churches, but yeah, I just wanted, you can see that Scientology is in a lot of European countries, and yeah, they really conquered Europe, say. Scientology has had registered as an official org in Munich in 1970. So that was basically the first time Scientology got here. In 1973, so 3 years later, actually the German Federal Criminal Department deemed them a criminal organization, so their legal status was taken away. They weren't an official org anymore. And this whole decision, unfortunately, was reversed due to pressure from the US government a little later. then this is say this then 2008 from this book. They says we have 10 churches, 14 missions, and 4 celebrity centers in Germany. So yeah, I think I don't know whether there's new ones that actually, that have been founded since then, but that's already a lot. Then also after the fall of the German Wall, so basically in 1990, when the Soviet Union was disbanded, or the end of the Soviet Union came, and the wall fell, Scientology went into East Germany. They presented themselves as a philosophy. They did that in a lot of Eastern European countries because people in Eastern European countries, in East Germany especially, I know this from here, they're very anti-religious because of communism. In communism, religion was frowned upon, and yeah. So they basically, they didn't say they're a religion here. They said they're a philosophy, and they also did that same thing in Japan. Anyways, they bought a lot of real estate here. I think they took like 10,000 Dianetics books, went into East Germany, started recruiting. They even had apparently a yellow Dianetics bus that toured through southern East Germany. And then in 1989, Scientology, like right before the wall fell, they wanted to open a boarding school in Heusdorf, which is close to Hamburg. That was the first time that Scientology and the resistance to Scientology was kind of carried all the way throughout Germany, and that a lot of Germans got to know about Scientology, and due to the local resistance and it spreading through Germany, they actually gathered some 50,000 plus signatures against this boarding school opening, and in the end they forced them to go to Denmark instead, where Denmark apparently has more liberal laws concerning this, and they opened the boarding school basically on the other side of the border in Denmark. We also had very well-known or infamous Scientologists in Germany. One of them that I do wanna mention is Gottfried Hellenwein. He back then donated 900,000 Deutsche Mark, which was what we had before the euro came around, to Narconon. And his biographer, Peter Reichelt, he was the one that went to Clearwater. You might have heard about that. He met Mark Bunker there, and they are attacked by a man with a hammer who actually hits Bunker's camera multiple times. So, yeah, that was a big deal. I think they did a documentary for a German media outlet back then. Also, Hellenwein then went to Ireland, since he didn't feel welcome here anymore, apparently, and he was the one that hosted the wedding of Marilyn Manson. So, since the actual Charles Manson was in Scientology as well, this is kind of where a circle closes, say. This is their location in Berlin. This is actually taken from my video. It opened in 2007. So, I want to talk about the movie Valkyrie a little bit. There was a big discussion around the production of this movie in Germany. It was starring Tom Cruise as the Count Stauffenberg. Graf Stauffenberg, he was the one who... He was basically the leading figure of an assassination attempt on Hitler, which unfortunately failed. But Stauffenberg led a group that tried to assassinate Hitler in 1944, and Cruz was. They did a movie about that, and Cruz was to play Stauffenberg. Cruz also visited the center in Berlin at that time, and in 2007 he was honored with the German Bambi Award for Courage. The Bambi Award's kind of our biggest movie award that we have. It's kind of like the German Oscar awards, and we've never had a Bambi Award for Courage before. They basically made this for him, and there was a huge uproar in Germany about that. Actually, Uwe Benneter, he was a parliament delegate from the SPD, so that's one of the two biggest parties here in Germany, the Social Party or Social Democratic Party of Germany. From Berlin, he said it was a slap in the face of all democratic people. Wait, let me draw this up here real quick. There we go. He says, it's a slap in the face of all democratic people, everyone in resistance in Germany back then, as well as all the victims of the Scientology sect. So he was one of the first ones to speak up about this. Also, the SPD is kind of like the left-wing biggest party here in Germany. Then there's the right-wing biggest party here in Germany, who has been the ruling party for a lot of years until just 3 years ago, which is the Christian Democratic Union or Christian Social Union in Bavaria. And her name was there was one person from that party. Her name was Antje Blumenthal, and she says she wanted to prohibit United Artists from filming in Germany. Now, United Artists is basically a Scientology owned company. Scientology bought it back then, and it's basically Tom Cruise's company. Say. So Tom Cruise wasn't only the actor in that movie; he was also the producer of the movie. And she said something about an anti-democratic org that was embodying a symbol of anti-Nazi resistance. Then even the son of Stauffenberg himself, Berthold Schenk, he actually says, "Keep your hands off my dad." So even he didn't want Tom Cruise to play his dad, or to be the actor in that movie. Also the mayors of Berlin spoke out against it, and the problem was that many media, or a lot of the media, the German media, did speak out in favor of Tom Cruise and the movie. So yeah. As I said, he was also the producer of the movie, and then 3 years before, which is an interesting side note, I think there was a similar debate in Norway where I pulled up this article right here from today. Cruise sparks war over peace concert. Tom Cruise, they wanted him as a co-host for the Nobel Peace Prize concert, and there were a lot of critics speaking out against it as well. The biggest controversy here in Germany was about the permit to film in the historic so-called Bendlerblock, which right now nowadays is one of the places that our defense ministry sits in. So this is right here from Bundesministerium der Verteidigung, which is our defense ministry. As a picture of this, it was back then. It was basically the place where Stauffenberg and his comrades planned the assassination attempt on Hitler. Bryan Singer, the director that Tom Cruise got to the movie, or that Scientology got to direct the movie, he actually said they didn't need this historical venue. They could have just as easily built a set, and filmed it there. But Scientology was really adamant on filming it there, and they did film it in the end, film it there. So that was a great PR success for Scientology, and now I want to kind of tell you why, or why this is so important. Um, Cruise had been denied. There's also another small side note right here. Denied filming Mission Impossible 3 before already in Germany in the Reichstagsbuilding, which is basically our most famous parliament building that you might have seen. I put a picture of it right below here. Um, so yeah, back then the president of the Bundestag, the German parliament, Wolfgang Thierse, actually prohibited that, and he said, "Yo, ain't gonna happen." One more background information is needed on this whole matter before you can really understand why it was such a big deal in Germany. Now, back then, Scientology in Germany was not really considered a sect or a cult yet. Like, people didn't know that much about them. They were mostly called a youth religion, um, just like the Children of God or the Transcendental Meditation or the Hare Krishna guys. Um, it was really not in critic as much then. It was also not an official government matter really yet, but they had the churches looking into it. So the Protestant church was really big on that. They actually had an expert for sects, which back then in Berlin was Thomas Gando. Um, and he once actually called Tom Cruise the Goebbels of Scientology, um, which I which I found was kind of interesting. There are extensive documents. I'm sorry, published on Scientology also by the city of Hamburg, and the city of Hamburg was actually the first one. Were actually the first ones to establish a so-called Scientology commission, and that actually was kind of, like triggered or sparked by the whole thing that I talked about before in Heusdorf. So since there was such a big resistance, the city of Hamburg kind of took this on, and Scientology actually tried to sue them multiple times. You can Google that. Just Google Scientology versus City of Hamburg, and you'll find a lot of info on that. This is just basically one screenshot of the city page or the internet page of Hamburg. Their website, they still have info about the Scientology organization, and you can also read that they're being watched by the German government. Now, why was it such an important business, or why is it important to look at Tom Cruise and the movie Valkyrie? Because the first commissioner of that commission, of the Hamburg City Commission, the Scientology Commission, was Ursula Caberta, and she was basically, yeah, you could maybe call her a public enemy number one of Scientology, because for years and years, I think some decades, she helped people get out of Scientology. She gathered a lot of info on them. She took a lot of, or was the initiator of a lot of legal actions against Scientology, and she actually says, and made it really clear, that when Tom Cruise fights Nazis in Germany, that actually means Scientology fights Nazis in Germany. That's what people see, you know, like that's the basic message they want to get across. And you can see that, you know, you can see that when with the fact that they wanted to use this historical venue, you know, because they could have filmed it. They could have easily filmed it anywhere else, but for days and days, Tom Cruise was in Berlin. He was gone to the venue, filming it. Actually, I think with Katie Holmes and their kid, and that, you know, the German media just loved it. They were writing about, you know, where does Tom Cruise eat his dinner or his lunch? Where does he go to? Like what park? What did he visit? All that, and it was just days and weeks of positive media influence of Scientology in Germany. And then when Tom Cruise was awarded with the Bambi Award for Courage, that was basically like the tip of the iceberg, where people were outraged. A lot of people were outraged, especially Miss Caberta was, because because we've never had anybody who's basically anti-democratic, openly anti-democratic, get a prize for courage in Germany ever before, especially not for something that's connected with the Nazis. Have I When we have a anti-democratic organization like Scientology fighting Nazis in Germany, you know, like this is the whole picture. I hope you get this. It's just difficult. I'm sorry. So back then, oh, this is just another Wikipedia. This is just a Wikipedia page, so you can see. I think they called it the Scientology Task Force of the Hamburg Interior Authority, and on Wikipedia. In German, this is called Behörde für Inneres, Arbeitsgruppe Scientology. So this is their symbol. Yeah. And then back then it started that the Scientology was being watched by the German Verfassungsschutz, which is basically our federal office for the protection of the Constitution. You could kind of compare that to the FBI or Homeland Security, maybe. There's a lot of police groups or also like agencies in the U.S., so I'm not really that deep into this matter, but yeah, I think you get the whole idea. They also watch people like they also watch ISIS. They also watch certain Nazi parties or like really far right wing parties. Yeah, they're basically for our protection, so that nobody just takes over our government. This is just the example of Bavaria, though I think Scientology is being watched in at least like 3/4 of our states. I think it's being watched in 12 or 13 states right now, out of 16. So, and this is still ongoing today. Then Bavaria, which this is actually the webpage of or the website of the Bavarian Verfassungsschutz, the Bavarian Office for Protection of the Constitution. Back then, Bavaria's interior minister wrote on Hubbard's idea of an international city, where Hubbard basically stated that he wanted to take over the world, take over every capital in the world, make Scientology like an international org, and basically clear the planet, which they also said a lot. Like, I don't know if you remember how Tom Cruise said in his very infamous interview that one day peace will be something that you can only read about in history books. But yeah, this was basically comments like these were basically the the justification for the Bavarian interior minister, to have the Verfassungsschutz watch them. since this definitely hints at Scientology wanting to take over the German government as well, and our German capital as well. Now, the question is, can Scientology, according to German law, call themselves a religion or worldview community? Or that was a big question, or still is a big question for me, was a big question in Germany. In terms of the German constitution, this one would be article number 4. So one of our basic rights is the freedom of religion, as well as is in America, and there are different court decisions on this matter. Now, firstly, you have to know that in Germany we're a lot less open for different, say, religious views than maybe in America. America was kind of founded upon that. I mean, like, the first people that came there were Puritans, and a lot of people went to America to practice their religion. That was where they were being prosecuted in Europe, which they were being prosecuted in Europe for. So the American government is a lot more liberal with that, which might be a good thing in a lot of cases, but in the case of Scientology, this is, I think, highly questionable. So what court decisions do we have? Firstly, in 1993, Scientology was classified as a primarily commercial org by the highest courts of Hamburg, which meant they couldn't sell their Dianetics books on the street anymore, for example. This decision was also confirmed by our Federal Administrative Court in 1995. In the same year, the German Federal Labor Court comes to the same conclusion when ex-members sued Scientology. They basically had that 110-hour work schedule with the $47 allowance that you still have in LA today. I don't know how much money it was back then in allowance, but it was definitely not a fair wage, say. And somebody sued Scientology that year, and it actually went all the way up to our Federal Labor Court, and they also said that Scientology was a commercial org primarily, and the ex-member actually won this lawsuit. The problem is, as Nordhausen and Billerbeck von Billerbeck put it, that brainwashing is not illegal in Germany. So there's not really a law against people coming into this org on a voluntary basis, voluntarily, and getting ripped off, basically. In Berlin, for example, Scientology can still sell their books on the street, which I have seen on Potsdamer Platz, which is one of our main squares in Berlin, just a couple of weeks ago. And they also have a lot of their so-called front groups here that are still active. For example, they have this thing, Sag Nein zu Drogen, Sag Ja zum Leben, say no to drugs, say yes to life, which really hit the schools. Like they really went into schools and propagated their whole anti-drug campaign there, which in the end basically was just another way of getting people into Scientology. And they also had their whole Narconon. They have their whole Narconon organization in Germany, where a lot of people don't know that this is also Scientology. And I don't think there's ever been a German institution that actually said, that Narconon, that there's actually been any proof of Narconon actually healing people from their drug addiction. So it's highly critical, I think. Then also volunteer ministers, where they set up these tents in Berlin where volunteer ministers, which you've also seen in LA, I know that, they offered their so-called touch assist, where they say they can heal you with touching you somewhere. Kind of weird. And because of all that, Berlin has actually decided to watch them again, because what I said before, the Verfassungsschutz, so the organization for the protection of our constitution, they didn't watch them back then, which is why Berlin was able to open their big org in Berlin, which Scientology was able to open their big org in Berlin. So yeah, they are being watched by the Verfassungsschutz again since 2007. And Berlin actually set up a coordinating office for sects and other psycho groups, which opened in Berlin in 2008. So that was the first official, say, governmental non-Christian organization that looked at them in Berlin, just like the one in Hamburg did. One random side note, which I find quite interesting, which was said in this book, was that the kids of the director of the Scientology Central in Berlin actually fled to Caberta in Hamburg at one point in time. I think her son was 25 and her daughter was 14. So they went to Caberta and said they didn't want to go back, and especially the 14-year-old was kind of fearing that her mother would put her into the. She kind of feared that her mother would put her into the boarding school in Denmark. They did go back in the end, but there was a court ruling that they must not be taken to the boarding school or to any other Scientology org ever again. So, I'm sorry. One more thing is, as you can read here, one more thing concerning the legal status is that there was actually an attempt to ban Scientology completely from Germany and have them labeled as an extremist group. I think a foreign extremist group is what it was called, which failed, unfortunately, though. So, yeah, they're still allowed here in Germany. That was actually when 16 states came together. All their interior ministers had like a big interior minister conference, and they talked about this ban. Though I think there was also a lot of pressure especially from the U.S. government, from the outer ministry. So yeah, here I just have a bunch of like different court rulings concerning their legal status. You can look all these up on the page of the German government. So yes, the churches here, I didn't put that in parentheses, I probably should have, are still going strong. As I saw and as I showed you in the video, there were a lot of young people standing in front of Scientology. And I think you should ask your local politicians, like make this a big thing in Germany again. If you're German, you're watching this, ask politicians on how they stand about how they stand on the Scientology matter. Watch different channels and become part of the movement if you want to. Watch Growing Up in Scientology, for example, or Scientology Audit, Streets LA, Confident Chris, Jessica Palmadessa, or others. What you could also do is write emails to media outlets, inform yourself, ask them to do a piece on Scientology, ask them to do a piece on the movement in LA. And most importantly, go out if you can. If you live in Berlin, in Stuttgart, in Hamburg, in Munich, in one of these places, in Frankfurt, keep Scientologists from recruiting in your city. Just go out there and when they want to sell their Dianetics books, just tell them that it's a cult. So yeah, I hope I could give you a small overview, and thanks for watching my second video. I'm sorry if I'm not if I'm a little shaky still, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for watching.